Tonight on Cronkite News, we'll have a rundown of the presidential debate between Vice President Harris and former President Trump.
Plus, how the annual Tempe Healing Field tribute at Tempe Beach Park honored the victims of 9/11.
And we'll have more about Vice President nominee Tim Walz's visit to the Valley. Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News. I'm Wilder Adams.
And I'm Kendall Flynn. Thank you for joining us.
We begin with Tuesday night's presidential debate, the very first debate between Vice President Harris and former President Trump.
After candidates covered their policy points, CNN's Lee Waldman has some of the key takeaways from the debate stage.
An historic first meeting between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris may have started with a handshake.
Kamala Harris, let's have a good debate.
Nice to see you. Have fun.
Thank you.
But the gloves quickly came off.
What we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess.
She doesn't have a plan.
Harris drawing contrast with Trump by framing herself as an advocate for the middle class and framing her opponent as in it only for himself.
Donald Trump has no plan for you.
While Trump attempted to tie Harris to President Joe Biden's record,
The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done.
in a wide-ranging debate, the two clashed over a number of critical issues, from reproductive rights.
We did something that everybody said couldn't be done, and now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade.
To immigration and border security.
Why hasn't she done it? They've had 3.5 years to fix the border.
What we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
To their visions of and for the country.
We all have so much more in common than what separates us, and we can chart a new way forward.
Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation, and it happened 3.5 years ago.
While it is unsure if there will be a second debate between the two candidates, both candidates shifted their focus to remembering the attacks on 9/11.
That's right, Wilder. Today is the 23rd anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. And just hours after the debate, former President Trump and Vice President Harris greeted each other again. Each candidate shook hands at a Ground Zero ceremony in New York City. They stood together by President Biden and New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg. They were also joined by Vice Presidential nominee J.D. Vance and former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Traditionally, presidential candidates do not campaign during the anniversary of the terrorist attacks, but they will often cross paths with one another.
Earlier this week, Arizonans got a chance to pay tribute to the victims lost by taking part in the 9/11 Tour Challenge in Glendale.
Cronkite News reporter Ryan Pachesnik has more on the story.
For the 7th straight year, members of the public came together for the 9/11 Tower Challenge at Desert Diamond Arena on Saturday morning. The event was hosted by the 100 Club of Arizona, an organization that provides aid and support to the families of public safety officers and firefighters who suffered a major injury or were killed in the line of duty.
If it was your family member, you would want to make sure that they get remembered forever, that they're not forgotten, that they're never forgotten, and their sacrifice is honored, because there are very few people in this world that would run into a burning building.
Participants started the course in the lower bowl and climbed up and down the stairs throughout the arena, representing the 2,071 steps that were in each of the Twin Tower buildings. While some are old enough to remember what happened on that day, others weren't even born yet. But that didn't stop them from attending the event to honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice and to never forget what happened.
We're starting to get to the generation where many people weren't born when 9/11 happened, myself included. So participating in this stair climb means so much because it lets this generation remember the most ultimate sacrifice.
As time passes, memories fade. And for the loved ones that lost their family members on that day, the memory never fades. And I think it's important to come out and commemorate the lives that were lost, the lives that were changed.
This year will mark 23 years since the tragedy of 9/11 took place, and while it will remain one of the darkest days in history, it is also important to remember and honor the lives lost on that tragic day, one step at a time. Reporting in Glendale, I'm Ryan Pachesnik, Cronkite News.
The city of Tempe honored those killed in the attacks with its annual Healing Field at Tempe Beach Park. Nearly 3,000 flags were placed in the park along with the names of the victims lost on 9/11. But that wasn't the only way Tempe marked today's somber occasion. Cameron Palmer tells us about an event where people are using action to inspire others.
At Tempe's Mullet Arena, dozens of volunteers came for a day of service, working together to honor those who were lost in the attacks by packing food for people in need. The packing tables were set up to put together hundreds of meals for St. Mary's and United Food Banks. The energy and party-like atmosphere was all part of an effort to turn a devastating day into a day of service and to prove that the impact of the terrorist attacks can have positive outcomes. Governor Katie Hobbs joined the packing along with hundreds of volunteers from across the valley.
I thanks for those of us who were alive at the time. It really had a huge impact on us. And to be able to take something like that and turn it into a day of action, serve alongside our friends and our neighbors, and really bring purpose and meaning to something that was such an impactful event.
While this was the 6th year that this event has been held in Arizona, the amount of food packed and the number of volunteers continues to grow. In the newsroom, Cameron Palmer, Cronkite News.
Meanwhile, former President Trump is scheduled to make a campaign stop tomorrow in Tucson, and vice presidential nominee Tim Walz visited Phoenix Tuesday afternoon, making stops in Phoenix and in Mesa, where he hosted a debate watch party. Before hosting the debate watch party in Mesa, Walz highlighted the impact young voters have not only on themselves but on others around them.
Do not underestimate the power you have, not just on your peers, but on others. When people see young people engaged in the political process, it brings a sense of hope because it truly is about the future. Look, these policies matter, but you should care a lot about things like climate change. You should care more than me. I'm gonna be dead before it gets worse. You're still gonna be alive. You've got to deal with these policies longer.
Coming up next, we'll take a visit to the Navajo Nation,
where we learn about a unique contest.
I believe this is the most challenging mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually than any other pageant that I've ever competed in and across the world.
What makes the Miss Navajo Nation pageant so unique?
Plus, a cool down is headed our way just in time for the weekend. Your full forecast is coming up next.
Coming up on the cut.
Coming up on the cut.
Coming up on the cut.
How students can build their broadcast journalism portfolio with opportunities to learn more about on-air reporting and studio production.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at @thecut_network and on X at @CutASU.
What Cronkite News means to me is opportunity.
We do news right at Cronkite News, serving a community ethically, honestly, and truthfully.
And we can provide a necessarily different angle, different voice for those people that really need it.
The students, they have a lot of passion for journalism.
I get to do a lot of stories about the Hispanic community.
And we have access to cover all of these sorts of events and get media coverage of all these different personalities and athletes, and that's just a huge thing.
But it's also a chance for people here to be humanized.
Individuals of all walks of life.
Cronkite News will help take the next generation of journalists onto their next careers.
I am old enough to remember Walter Cronkite.
We're putting a lot of pride on his name because we are practicing a lot of the things that he did.
I think he'd be smiling from ear to ear.
I.
We are Cronkite.
Welcome back. Singing, cheering, and laughing fill the air as attendees enjoy the 72nd annual Miss Navajo Nation pageant in Window Rock.
But as Concrete reporter Ignacio Ventura tells us, this is no ordinary pageant.
A dark early morning and some mild cold temperatures do not deter people from coming to witness 6 women prepare for the first part of the pageant. Their first task, sheep butchering.
This pageant has been going for about 72 years now, but this sheep butchering actually came about in the late 90s, and so the reason why it was brought in was because of the significance of how important this sheep is within our culture.
At home, raising and harvesting sheep is central to Navajo life, passed down through generations as part of home education. The competition begins with the participants attempting to light fires, a vital skill. Dinoa Yazi understands the difficulties of competing in the Miss Navajo Nation pageant.
I believe this is the most challenging mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually than any other pageant that I've ever competed in and across the world.
The Miss Navajo Nation competition offers participants a platform to achieve their goals. For contestant Quandina Begay, becoming Miss Navajo Nation means continuing to preserve and share Navajo customs.
If selected as Miss Navajo, one of my biggest accomplishments is to preserve our language, tradition, culture for the younger generations to come, because for me at least, it is hard to learn our language.
Begay also acknowledges the challenge of passing down the language as fewer elders remain to teach it.
The Miss Navajo Nation pageant takes place here in Window Rock, the capital of the Navajo Nation. This event showcases tradition, perseverance, language, and more.
The journey to become Miss Navajo Nation doesn't end with sheep preparation. The contestants also face a traditional food competition. Navajo Nation President Boo Nygren and his wife show their support as the participants prepare dishes like Navajo tea and blood sausage. The momentum of the Miss Navajo Nation competition continues in the coming days as many more rounds of competition await these participants looking to present themselves and their culture. In Window Rock, Ignacio Ventura, Cronkite News.
Thanks for that, Ignacio. The Miss Navajo Nation pageant just wrapped up with Renisha Begay being declared the next title holder.
Back here in the valley, it seems to be cooling down.
Elizabeth Klein joins us now from the Cronkite Weather Center with what we can expect for the rest of the week.
Thanks. Let's take a look at that evening planner. By 8 p.m., we'll be in those double digits at 99. By 10 p.m., we'll be at 95. Overall, skies look pretty clear through the evening. Let's take a look at those lows for tomorrow. Phoenix will be at 78, Sedona 58, 40 the lowest, and the Grand Canyon. And then to the west of the state, we'll be hovering in those high 70s. Those highs for tomorrow, Phoenix will still be in those triple digits at 108 for Phoenix, 88 for Sedona, 81 in the Grand Canyon, the lowest 76 in Flagstaff. To the west will be in those low 100s. Now, as that ridge transitions to a trough, we're going to be experiencing some windy conditions over the next couple of days. By lunchtime tomorrow, Phoenix will be at wind speeds of 13 miles per hour, 24 miles per hour in Sedona, and 27 miles per hour in the Grand Canyon. Then those wind speeds will fluctuate a little bit as we get into the weekend. They will trickle down. For that 8-day forecast, tomorrow will be at a high of 107. By Saturday, we'll be at 101 with a 20% chance of rain. Then that rain chance will increase by Sunday at 40%, and we'll finally be seeing some of those fall temperatures. Monday will be at 96. Then as we head through the rest of next week, Tuesday will be at 90, Wednesday 93, Thursday 91. In the Cronkite Weather Studio, I'm Elizabeth Klein.
Ramping up quickly.
People are told to evacuate as the hurricane makes its way to the coast of Louisiana. Today, the National Hurricane Center said Francine upgraded to a Category 2 hurricane. That means winds could reach up to 110 miles per hour. Areas along Louisiana's coastline are seeing storm surge levels up to 10 feet. Since yesterday, evacuation orders have been placed in the New Orleans area.
Meanwhile, Southern California is also experiencing home evacuations, but in this case for wildfires, the biggest being the bridge fire in the Angeles National Forest. After erupting on Sunday, the fire burned over 46,000 acres. As of this morning, this is not the only fire burning, however. The line fire in San Bernardino County burning over 34,000 acres. And the airport fire in Orange County burning over 22,000 acres.
Prices have fallen to the lowest rate in 3.5 years. The consumer price index dropped to 2.5% in August. Gas prices plunged more than 10%, and the falling oil prices mean they will continue to decline in the coming weeks. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says the leading driver of inflation continues to be housing costs. This latest report clears the way for the Federal Reserve to start cutting interest rates next week.
I'm Jalen Weathers with a preview of tonight's Cronkite Sports Report. Coming up next, after winning their first 2 home games, ASU football will go on the road for the first time this season. The Sun Devils will head into Texas to face off against the Texas State Bobcats. We'll get you prepared for tomorrow's game between the 2 undefeated teams after the break.
Coming up on the cut.
Coming up on the cut.
Coming up on the cut.
How students can build their broadcast journalism portfolio with opportunities to learn more about on-air reporting and studio production.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at @thecut_network and on X at @CutASU.
What Cronkite News means to me is opportunity.
We do news right at Cronkite News, serving a community ethically, honestly, and truthfully.
And we can provide a necessarily different angle, different voice for those people that really need it.
The students, they have a lot of passion for journalism.
I get to do a lot of stories about the Hispanic community.
And we have access to cover all of these sorts of events and get media coverage of all these different personalities and athletes, and that's just a huge thing.
But it's also a chance for people here to be humanized. Individuals of all walks of life.
Cronkite News will help take the next generation of journalists onto their next careers.
I am old enough to remember Walter Cronkite.
We're putting a lot of pride on his name because we are practicing a lot of the things that he did.
I think he'd be smiling from ear to ear.
I.
We are Cronkite.
Welcome to the Cronkite Sports Report. I'm Jalen Weathers. The Diamondbacks close out their series against the defending champs today at Chase Field. The Snakes took down the Rangers last night by a final score of 6-0. Heading into today's finale, the Diamondbacks currently hold the second wildcard spot in the standings. They are only a half game behind the San Diego Padres, who play tonight. Every game is critical now, though, but for the good news for the Diamondbacks is they got that man Christian Walker back from injury, who hit 2 homers last night, and the first baseman is happy to be back on the field.
Interesting perspective, being in the fight every day, and then all of a sudden you're watching the games on TV. So it's I take the game pretty seriously. The moments, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. But all of a sudden you're sitting on the couch and you just want to be on the field. It's like, the results don't feel like they matter as much. So
WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert has come under fire for comments she made in a recent interview. When asked about fans for Caitlin Clark and Andrew Reese engaging in racist and hateful speech on social media, Engelbert seemed to downplay the negativity and said the attention on the two players was good for the game. The WNBA Players Union quickly criticized Engelbert's comments, saying the commissioner missed an opportunity to condemn the racism and harassment that players are facing online. The union released a statement saying, in part, "This is not about rivalries or iconic personalities fueling a business model. This sort of toxic fandom should never be tolerated." Engelbert responded to the criticism by posting on X that she feels there's absolutely no place for hate or racism in the WNBA. Mercury player Natasha Mack, however, addressed the controversy today.
Listen, I'm not a politics person, but that's BS. Come on. You got to hold everybody accountable. That's all I have to say.
Meanwhile, the Phoenix Suns are facing a lawsuit from a former employee who's seeking $60 million. The employee was the program manager of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Her attorney tells ESPN she suffered racial discrimination and harassment. A spokesperson for the Suns also tells ESPN she was terminated because of her failure to perform her job duties. The Arizona State football team has started the season with back-to-back wins for the first time since 2021. The Sun Devils have their toughest game of the season so far as they face to travel the Texas State Bobcats. This will be the final game of the non-conference schedule and a major road test. The Sun Devils look to start their season 3-0, which they haven't done since 2019. With a quick turnaround this week, recovery and staying healthy has been a big emphasis for the Sun Devils.
Yeah, I think that's last year what we didn't have really. Guys banged up front, but we always wanted to establish that. I think every team in the country wants to establish the run, and that's what you want your team to be able to do to anybody in the country. Throwing the ball is obviously very much needed, but everyone wants to be able to establish the run because it opens up so much more in the passing game.
As the Cardinals enter week 2 of the season, they already have a key player out with injury. The Cards put right tackle Jonah Williams on IR, leaving a hole in the offense. Williams won't return until at least week 6. Arizona has their home opener against the LA Rams on Sunday, whereas Sam Dayton reports they hope for a better showing on the field.
Arizona Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon addressed the media following his team's Week 1 loss to the Buffalo Bills. In a tough game back and forth, the Arizona Cardinals got just edged out by 6 points to Buffalo, despite the fact Gannon had his team's back at the podium.
We watch the tape and correct the tape and look at it, and here's what we did good, here's what we did bad, and felt like we have to clean up mistakes, but things that I felt like we thought our expectation was we're going to get a couple of these things done. We didn't get them done.
First home game, divisional opponent, LA Rams, man, it's a dream. It's going to be an electric environment, and they're a close team to play against, so they're going to have some fans here, but, we're expecting to see Red Sea just completely take over.
Gannon and the Cardinals will face off against the Los Angeles Rams this Sunday afternoon at State Farm Stadium. In Tempe, Sam Dayton, Cronkite News.
And that's everything for Cronkite Sports Report. Now, back to Wilder and Kendall.
Coming up next, one of the most viral athletes from this year's 2024 Olympics is making headlines again.
After receiving mixed reviews for her breakdancing performance at the Olympics, this Australian breakdancer has reached new heights in her athletic career. This year's Olympics was the first to include breakdancing as a competition. Despite not winning a medal, Australian dancer Ray Guns stole the show and went viral over social media.
Coming up on the cut.
Coming up on the cut. Coming up on the cut.
How students can build their broadcast journalism portfolio with opportunities to learn more about on-air reporting and studio production.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at @thecut_network and on X @CutASU.
3, 2, 1. Cronkite News. Get real professional experience in areas such as reporting, broadcast editing, and behind-the-scenes production, such as technical director and audio.
Kill the mics.
Or go out in the field and cover important local stories.
Learn and master the English language.
In a fun, welcoming atmosphere. Cronkite News. The future starts now.
There are changes atop the world breakdancing rankings.
Australian breakdancer Ray Gunn is now the top-ranked breakdancer in the world.
Ray Gunn's performance at the 2024 Olympics was criticized by many. Despite this, the 37-year-old sits atop the breakdancing world. The World Dance Sport Federation ranks athletes by their best 4 performances last year. The points Ray Gunn won from her first place finish in last year's WDSF Oceania Championships vaulted her into the top spot in the rankings. That's it for tonight's edition of Cronkite News. I'm Wilder Adams.
And I'm Kendall Flynn. Thank you for joining us. And to see top Arizona stories anytime, log on to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.